live streaming both on YouTube and on Palm Street all at the same time. So hopefully you can hear me well. I've got a whole new setup going on since probably the last time that you've seen me. So we're live streaming both on Palm Street and on YouTube right now. We're going to talk about a lot of different things today, but mostly we're going to be talking about the 5 things that we get asked most as coffee vendors at reptile shows. So I'll go through like my top 5 things that we get asked over and over again at reptile shows. So we'll do that. But also, in addition to that, we are going to be talking about some business news and updates and some conservation news. So hang in there with us. It's going to be more of a podcast style format. So if you're into that, hang out. You can just tune it on and listen. I'm not going to be showing you a ton of stuff today. But glad everyone decided to spend your morning with me. I have personally been up at the office since about 6 o'clock this morning. We had an event where we delivered coffee to our local Chamber of Commerce for an event this morning. So I was up and working pretty early this morning. You'll also might see that I'm a little bit sweaty. And that is because I also had to go pick up a delivery of green coffee. So how we get coffee to us is in like 150-pound burlap bags full of coffee. I had to go to the coffee warehouse this morning, pick up those bags, and drag them into our facility. So I've just come in from outside here in Charleston, South Carolina. It is, I don't know, probably 85 degrees right now at just past 10 o'clock in the morning. So it's going to be another 90-plus day here. I can already tell, but there's worse places to live, so I definitely am not complaining. Again, live streaming on Palm Street. If you're joining us on Palm Street, you can, of course, shop live with us. We have all of our products in the shop. Recently, we actually did an update where I went through and added variants to all of the coffees in the shop, and so you can see that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at the YouTube. I'm trying to get everything set up. So you can either order whole bean or ground on Palm Street now. You don't have to just order whole bean. So you don't have to rely on sending me a message. So I went through and I did all those updates since the last time that we hung out. So if you want ground or you want whole bean, you can select that directly in the shop, just like you would on our website. So hopefully that helps make it easier for you to buy the coffee from us. Speaking of coffee from us, our featured coffee of the week is our Cloud Forest blend. I've got that pinned down in the comments or in the live stream here on Palm Street. Our Cloud Forest blend is our light roast. It is we recently updated it. It was a Rwanda. It's now an Ethiopian, and then it's also a Honduran and a Guatemalan. And it's got a similar flavor profile, that Rwanda versus that Ethiopian. It's just sometimes we struggle getting coffee from different regions depending on the seasonality, and so sometimes we have to make substitutions. So that is now an Ethiopian, a Honduran, and a Guatemalan. But it's a very nice light roast coffee. You can grab a bag of that in the shop here on Palm Street. If you are over on YouTube listening, you can also pop over. There's no reason why you can't join us from both places. And if you want to grab a bag of coffee, you can pop over to Palm Street and grab that. The other things that I want to talk about before we get to our main topic, we will be at Charleston Repticon this week. This is the only local show that we do. It is about 10 minutes from our facility, so it just makes sense for us to do it. So we're going to be there Saturday and Sunday this weekend. So if you're in the Charleston area and want to come pop in and hang out, talk about some coffee or some reptiles, we'll be there Saturday and Sunday. So we hope to see you there. If you're not local to Charleston, or you don't want to go to a Repticon show, we will be in ARBC Tinley Park. That's our next larger show. That will be October 11th and 12th. That's going to be the full setup, the big shebang. So if you've ever seen us at a show, you'll know what to expect there. It's also the 25th anniversary of the Tinley Park show, so it's pretty exciting. We're doing a limited edition Tinley Park blend 25th anniversary edition in collaboration with NARBC, and we're also going to do a special drink. So we're formulating a special drink specifically for the show. So we're very excited about that. I think, and you'll hear it here first, I think it's going to involve something to do with silver, because 25th anniversary is the silver anniversary. And so I think we're going to try to do something where we have silver flake or something that is actually in the coffee drink. So I'm still working on exactly what that's going to be, but that's my idea. I wanted to do something with silver. So that is, I think, most of my housekeeping before we get into some conservation news. So I've got some notes here. Don't mind me reading my notes. I just want to make sure I get some things right. I hope that you haven't felt some of the impacts from recent tariffs that have impacted the coffee industry, because we haven't actually changed our prices at all year. We've absorbed all these, but we did get some good news this past week within the coffee industry, and that was that there has now been a bill that's introduced to kill off some coffee tariffs. And it was a joint bill between a bipartisan bill between Representatives Don Bacon of Nebraska and Ro Khan of California. They're co-sponsoring this legislation to try and exempt coffee products from the tariffs that were imposed earlier this year. Just to give you an idea, we don't talk politics on the show, okay? If you've been around me talking with me, I don't talk politics, I don't talk religion, I don't talk anything like that. You have your beliefs, I have mine, and we're not going to get into that on this topic. These are facts, okay? I'm going to talk about facts. The fact is that green coffee from where we've sourced in the past year has doubled in price, and that has multiple causes. Okay, I'm not saying it's all tariffs. There was a drought in Brazil that caused a lower crop, and Brazil is the largest producer of coffee in the world. And so, of course, if Brazil does not have a good of a yield, then they're going to have to charge more to make up that difference, right? So that's a cause, but also the tariffs have certainly impacted the price that I, as a roaster, has had to pay to get it into the country. Okay. And so this is really good news from my perspective, because coffee does not grow in large enough commercial volume in the United States to be able to support this industry. And so we have to import. You can't just plant coffee in Kansas or Nebraska or something where there's agricultural land, Indiana or something like that, and have coffee and use it domestically. You can't do it. It won't grow. And so we have to import from these other countries. And so I love this legislation to kill off these tariffs. We don't know exactly where it's going to go yet. It's been introduced by the U.S. House of Representatives, so it still has to go through the process to become law. But it's something that hits us very, very hard and very directly as coffee roasters. And, it hurts our ability to grow as a business. We've been able to absorb the costs and not pass those along to you as the end user, but it's limited our ability to grow because our margins shrank significantly. And so we can't invest back into our business. We can't bring in coffee from different areas and give you a more diverse selection, because we just can't afford to buy more than what we've already been buying. Everything that we're buying is essentially just going right back into the business to buy the exact same thing again. So that's exciting for us to hear. So that's the first bit of good news on that front. Hopefully, again, you won't see any difference on your end if you're a cold-blooded caffeine customer. You wouldn't have seen a price increase before. You're not going to see any difference now. I did see some research that showed that coffee prices, both in cafes and in roasted coffee, have gone up by 21% so far this year since these tariffs have been introduced, which is a significant amount if you're talking about, a couple of bucks on your weekly, allowance for coffee. That can be significant over the long term. So we're very excited about that. The second thing that I want to talk about today, I'm actually really excited about this. It's interesting. I think it's probably one of the first uses of AI and machine learning that we as animal and plant people can probably agree is a good thing. There have been a lot of negative things when you talk about AI and machine learning, like usages in terms of art and music and data, sensitive data and things like that are definitely questionable. I tend to like new technologies as an individual, and so I like to see the cutting edge of things, but I also understand that there are definite repercussions to using some of this technology. However, this one's really interesting. So there were researchers that have built a machine learning model that can automatically detect products that are made with threatened wildlife species in online marketplaces. So like things like ivory carvings or reptile skins that have been bought and sold illegally, rhino horns, pangolin scales, things like that. They can actually look at these items and tell whether they are real illegally sourced products. And they've even created like a smartphone app to be able to let law enforcement officials in the field take photos and instantly check to see if the item is likely legal or illegal. And then they can take it back for further testing to confirm that. That's not the end all be all. But the amazing part is that they're saying that it's about 84% accurate in determining whether this item is legal or illegal. And I thought that is just absolutely astounding breakthrough. I'm actually reading a book right now, and I'll share with you once I'm finished reading the book because I'm very impressed with it so far. But it's called the endangered market or something like that, and it talks about cause and effect of illegal wildlife trafficking and suggestions on how we can try and prevent this from happening going forward. And this is just a huge breakthrough, I think, in terms of monitoring illegal wildlife traffic. Because when you look at other illicit markets, such as like drugs or human trafficking, things like that, there's a lot more money to be put towards some of those things than the wildlife trafficking market. And so if we can find a way to be able to identify these illegal or not legally traded goods, then that doesn't cost us a lot of money, in order to have boots on the ground to do this. I think this is a huge, huge win for wildlife enforcement officers around the world. So that's a big deal. I'm very excited about that. All right. So that's my coffee and conservation news of the week. I'm trying to come up with different things to share with you every week on these topics. So hopefully you enjoy that. Get a little bit of news of what's going on in the world, fun facts of what's going on to keep you in touch so that you don't have to spend hours like I do researching different news and facts for coffee and conservation. I'll just bring them to you twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday. In personal news, I did want to give you a brief update on me. So I did this last Tuesday when I had the live stream, and I want to continue to do this because I want to be building a community around coffee and conservation. I don't want it just to be me as Cold-Blooded Caffeine, but I want you to also get to know me as Trey. So my name is Trey, by the way. I don't know if I ever introduced myself, but my name is Trey. I am married. My wife of 13, almost 14 years. And we have a 9-year-old son named Kevin. The news that I want to share this week is my wife is actually going on vacation. So she's going to be gone for about a week and a half. She takes an annual hiking trip with her family every September, October timeframe, and they go to a bunch of national parks. Her family is really big into outdoors. And so she goes to all these different national parks all over the country. And I tend to stay here and spend time with my son, solo parent, and also because I have to work and have all the businesses to run. So we're going to be flying solo, me and Kevin, this next week. So if you don't hear from us by next Friday or so, send some help because we didn't make it. But no, it makes me, every time, she only does it once a year, and every time she does, it makes me appreciate her so much. And everything she does around the house. So I'm I'm excited for her to get to go and spend this time with her family and connect with them. Especially her dad loves hiking. He's already actually out. They're going to Rocky Mountain National Park this year. And so he's already driving out to Colorado right now. She flies out on Saturday. So my in-laws live in outside of Atlanta. And so it's a long drive. So he takes off about a week early, drives up there so that they'll have a car, and then my wife and my mother-in-law fly out and meet him there, and then they'll spend the next week and a half or so in Rocky Mountain National Park. And so I'm very excited for her because she gets to have that time with her family, but I will definitely miss her very, very much, and very excited for her to come back because we all know who the glue is that holds everything around hold everything together in my family. And it's certainly not me. So, that is that for the personal side of things. All right. Now the meat and potatoes, probably what you're all been waiting for. I want to talk about 5 commonly asked questions that we get at trade shows when we're vending about coffee. So what are the things that people come up to ask us about our coffee? So probably either number 1 or number 2, and these are in no specific order as to how frequent we get them, but either the most or second most question that we get is, do we have an espresso blend? And I want to talk a minute about espresso blends. We did a live stream on espresso several months ago now. So some of you may have joined us and heard about this, but I'm going to get on my soapbox again about espresso here in a second. So you can tune me out if you've already heard my soapbox. So I'm going to answer this question by saying yes and no. Yes, we do have a blend that we sell that is more designed with espresso in mind. And that is the Tarantula Cat blend. If you're interested in that Tarantula Cat blend, she specifically, when we collaborated with her on this coffee, she specifically asked for something that would go well with espresso. And so that's what we did there. But I do want to make sure that I'm clear. Any coffee can be used for espresso. It does not have to be a specific roast. It's all down to personal preference. And so you as the individual know what you like. Most people tend to like darker roasted coffee for espresso. And so usually that's what people are thinking about when they're talking about espresso roast. They want something a little bit darker. That doesn't have to be the case. It's not a different bean. It's not a different type of coffee that you use for espresso. Usually when we talk about espresso, it's a coffee that we have extended the development phase on. So we want to reduce some of that acidity. We want to reduce some of that natural sweetness, because when you're talking about espresso, it's a very concentrated coffee. And so any of that acidity or any of that sweetness is going to get compounded in that small of a roast. And so we do tend to take things a little bit, we drag out that development phase a little bit, but that's really the only difference in if I'm roasting something specifically for espresso versus just a standard coffee. So off my soapbox, there's no difference between a regular coffee and an espresso coffee in terms of the bean itself. But we do have an espresso roast that is our Tarantula Cat blend. You can grab that down in the shop if you're on Palm Street, or you can catch it on our website if you're over on YouTube. The next question I have that we get, probably, this one might be the most asked question. Let me see. Let me get to my next page. Yeah, this is probably the hardest question for me to answer. Every time we get this question, I have to clarify. I'm not trying to be mean or smart, just smart aleck. I have to ask clarifying questions. The second most asked question that we get is, what is your strongest coffee? And I have to ask clarifying questions, because in the world of coffee, strong can mean two things. It can mean how is the mouthfeel on the coffee? Like, is it watered down, or is it strong in terms of like the actual coffee itself, or it also could mean how caffeinated is the coffee. And usually people are referring to the caffeinated part, but sometimes we do get people saying, I want something bold and bitter, and so I can direct them to the darker roast stuff. So let's talk about both of those aspects. If you're referring to something that is strong in terms of flavor, in terms of having a boldness in the cup, in terms of being strong in the cup, then you probably want a darker roast coffee. All of our coffee is labeled on the bag itself. So let me see if you can see here. There's a slider on the bottom of every bag that shows the roast degree. And so it's got light and dark on there. So you can check that. That's also on our website as well. But if you also, if darker roast coffee, you can always ask me which is the darker roast coffee. That's not a problem. But the darker roast coffee is so if you smell the coffee itself, lighter roast coffee is going to tend to be lighter. You can tell more fruity notes to it when you get the aroma, whereas your darker roast coffee is going to be very strong, very bitter notes to it, even when you smell the aroma. That is the roast. That is the roast degree. That is the strength in terms of flavor. Now let's talk about caffeine, because this is probably the most confusing thing for people, because most people have heard one side or the other in terms of caffeine. And I want to clarify some points here. So caffeine itself, the caffeine molecule itself that is found in coffee, the molecule does not start to degrade until about 450 degrees Fahrenheit. That is really, really hot. Most specialty coffee roasters are not going to be roasting that hot. My maximum temperature that I aim for when I roast coffee is 445 degrees or so 5 degrees less than what it would take to start really degrading that caffeine. And that's our darkest roast. Now, that doesn't mean to say that there's not some degradation of the caffeine molecule because there's going to be hotter spots within the bed of coffee as opposed to other areas. So you might get some hot spots that are more than 450 degrees, some that are less. So there might be some degradation of the molecule. Thank you, Cynthia, on Palm Street for buying that Rainforest blend. We appreciate you helping out conservation, and we really, really hope you enjoy that coffee. So the molecule itself doesn't start to degrade until 450 degrees. That means there's only slight degradation in even our darkest roast. Compare that to light roast, you're going to have the full amount of caffeine. It's not going to be burned off at all. So to answer the question that most people ask is darker roast less caffeinated than light roast? The answer is it is negligible. There really isn't that big of a difference between a light roast coffee and a dark roast coffee in terms of caffeine, as long as you're not just burning the heck out of it. Oh, hey, Catalia. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I've got some of your coffee right here on the shelf. I should see if I'd known you would be joining. I would have featured your coffee as the coffee of the week instead of the Cloud Force blend. But glad to have you a part of the live stream. Thanks for joining. So the back to our conversation about caffeine. So the answer is that there's a negligible difference between the caffeine content in light roast coffee versus dark roast coffee. You're going to have slight degradation on dark roast coffee, but also keep in mind that as you roast, you're going to reduce your moisture content in the coffee. And so you're going to actually have less weight. So if you're weighing your coffee, you're going to use more beans for dark roast because they weigh less individually. And then you do light roast, but it's going to have slightly less caffeine in it. So long story short, I'm going to ramble about this for a long time, but just to say there's not much difference between light roast and dark roast coffee. All right. Hope that's all you ever wanted to know about the difference in caffeine between all the different roasts. The Next question that I wanted to ask is, we get asked pretty consistently about what makes our coffee different. We see a lot of people at expos. It's their first time experiencing us. What makes our coffee different? Is it flavored different? Is it, something like that? Really, the main difference for us is our mission. We don't do any flavored coffees or anything like that. The main difference is the fact that we do 100% specialty grade beans. So all of our coffee comes into us from specialty grade sources. They are the top 80% of the coffee, top 20% of the coffee in the world. They have to score an 80 or better on a scale of 1 to 100 in order to be categorized as specialty coffee. And so we only select the highest quality beans, and then we only small batch roast our coffee. So we can only roast about 10 bags at a time. And so that makes us pay very special attention to quality when we're roasting, so we can make adjustments. We're not just doing huge batches at one time. And then 5%, the big difference is that 5% of our proceeds go to wildlife conservation initiatives back in coffee producing countries. So when someone buys our coffee, like Cynthia or Catalia did today, we take 5% of those proceeds, not the profit, the entire proceeds, and we donate that back to wildlife conservation initiatives. We post those conservation results on our Instagram. So if you ever want to check that out, you can go to our Instagram and you can follow us, and then you'll see that we donate 5% of those proceeds back to wildlife conservation initiatives. And we work with several really wonderful organizations. One of them is Rainforest Alliance. They are an organization, if you're familiar with coffee, you've probably heard of them. They do certifications within coffee. So all of our coffee that we sell are Rainforest Alliance certified. But they also do some really great work in country when where they make sure that, farms are practicing sustainable farming practices. They're focusing on wildlife conservation and conservation in general. And there's a really important human element to it. So they're making sure that workers are getting paid a certain wage and things like that. So it's not just the fair trade certification that does that. Rainforest Alliance certification also has a human element involved, which is a big deal. And then we also work with USARK. So for those of you in the reptile community, we support USARK, U.S. Association of Reptile Keepers. We donate to them. We also have a coffee with them. It's a barrel-aged coffee. It's really nice. And then we also support Turtle Survival Alliance. I, in particular, think turtle and tortoise conservation is so important because, and we talked about this on Tuesday in our last live stream, but turtles and tortoises, it takes so long for them to reach maturity that they're at risk for extinction and endangerment in so many of their habitats because they just can't rebound as well as some of your other species can. And so we really put a lot of emphasis in our conservation efforts into Turtle Survival Alliance and other turtle and tortoise related efforts because they need all the help they can get. And then finally, we recently announced a corporate partnership with the South Carolina Aquarium. And so we do a lot of work. They're also based here in Charleston. We have a retail store in downtown Charleston on Meeting Street, and the South Carolina Aquarium is maybe 2 blocks away from that retail store. And so we work very closely with the South Carolina Aquarium. They do a lot of sea turtle conservation. We're right here on the coast, the east coast of South Carolina. So they do a lot of sea turtle conservation in their facility, rehabilitation and re-release and things like that. So that's what makes us different. It's our mission combined with our quality and our sourcing practices. All right, number 4, we get this we get this question more so when people are trying to buy coffee as gifts for people. And it's how long is coffee good for? And again, I know it seems to be coming back to this almost every question, but it depends. So it depends on what you mean by good for. Coffee is a shelf-stable product. There is no expiration date on coffee, and so you don't have to consume it. I've personally consumed 30-year-old coffee from Madagascar. My uncle was big into coffee and gave me some to try, and it was, I can't say that it was good. It was interesting. It's very stale, very cardboardy flavor, but knowing that it was coffee from that old was pretty cool, and it didn't have any ill effects. So there's not a point where I would say coffee is expired, but certainly coffee can go bad in terms of staleness. Fresh coffee, I would categorize fresh coffee if it's whole bean up to maybe from 1 month to up to 3 months. I wouldn't categorize it as fresh after that. And then ground coffee, you can cut that in half probably, because once you grind the coffee, you're creating more surface area for oxidation, and it's going to stale faster. Okay, so that is, for me, it's whole bean coffee is best in the first 2 to 4 weeks, but I would say 3 months is fine. Ground coffee, drink it as soon as you can. If you are going to try and store coffee for a longer period of time, I would recommend getting an airtight container. We have them. I should have brought one up here with me to show you, but they're called Airscapes. Is the brand that we have, and it's essentially a one-way valve where you can press it down and the air comes out, and it doesn't allow more air in. And so those are great for helping to stop that oxidation process in coffee. But long story short, when you buy fresh roasted coffee, consume it as fast as you can so that it doesn't go stale. And then the last question, I added this one just a little bit for fun. It is, most people ask this, I hope jokingly, when they ask it. They usually ask it like, this isn't that reptile poop coffee, is it? And no, it's not. What they're referring to, for those that don't get the joke, is Kopi Luwak, which is civet coffee. And it's coffee, the cherry of the coffee itself has passed through the digestive tract of a civet. And it's supposed to add some additional nuance and flavor to it. I personally have never tried Kopi Luwak, and I never will, because there are a lot of authenticity questions. So is it really Kopi Luwak? There's no way to tell for sure. And also, because of the popularity and the expense of it, there are some pretty significant animal welfare related questions around some of these brands of Kopi Luwak, because civets don't actually eat a lot of coffee cherries in the wild. It's not part of their staple diet. And so what ends up happening is that there's farms of civets where they're being force-fed coffee beans, coffee cherries, in order to pass through their digestive system so that they can sell the coffee beans themselves at a much higher price. Which is, of course, that's not okay. I hope we agree that we shouldn't be force feeding things to animals that is not part of their diet. So that is why I personally do not drink Kopi Luwak. I never will, but I do find the joke funny about the reptile poop coffee. I get it. My comeback to that is usually, no, we just filter it through snake skin before we serve it. And there's a good laugh, and I know it's a bad dad joke, but that, hey, I'm a dad, I make jokes. That's how it is. I feel like, excuse me, it is my earned right as a parent to make bad jokes. So that is something that I get to do. I've earned it. I get to make corny jokes. Because my dad did, and he embarrassed me when he did it, and so I get to do it, embarrass my son as well. So that's my dad joke of the week. And so that is those are the 5 things that we get asked most likely. We get other questions, but none of them, like most of them, are just like specific things like, oh, what's in this specific coffee? And that's all pretty easy to address. So if you guys have any other questions, I'd love to hear them. There's no bad questions. I'll never make fun of people who ask legitimate questions or pick at you. Well, I might pick at you, okay, because I like interacting with people and talking coffee. But there's no bad questions. So if you guys have any questions for me, I'm going to open it up to Q&A. If you have any questions, let's see. If people are willing to, so hey, Glitter Mama, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining. It's been a minute. If people are willing to drink digested coffee, they would probably drink snakeskin coffee. So funny you should say that. I had a harebrained idea not too long ago to try and make cricket coffee. And you're probably going to be like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. It was. Let me just preface and say it was terrible. And that's why you don't see cold-blooded caffeine serving cricket coffee. But I stumbled upon the idea there was like edible cricket protein powder that people were buying and using. And I was like, oh, that would be really cool to like add to cold-blooded caffeine. It's cold-blooded caffeine. It's cold-blooded coffee. A gimmick thing, right? I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be a $1 million idea, but I was like, oh, this is great. And I bought some and I tried it and it was so bad. It was so bad to like in coffee. Like it was so overpowering to have any amount of it in there. It was so overpowering. And it tasted like nuts, but very bad, I don't know, tree nuts or something like that. And it was so overwhelming. And it smelled like crickets. It didn't taste like crickets, but you know that cricket smell? Like for those of you that keep reptiles, you know that cricket smell. When you open the bag, it smelled like crickets, which is not a pleasant smell. So that idea got scrapped. So maybe I should try keeping some snake skin and filtering some coffee through snake skin, and that'll be my next big idea. So that was a good point, though. Thank you for that. So that's all I've got for today. I think I was aiming for an hour. I only made it 40 minutes. I tend to talk fast when we do these things. So I've got to learn. But I appreciate you all hanging out with me today so I can learn and grow and get better at doing this kind of stuff because I do love interacting with you. I hate the fact that sometimes the only time I get to see some of you are at trade shows. I usually am locked in my bubble here at the office and don't get let out very often. So it's good to interact with other human beings. I get excited and talk too fast. I'll try and get better. So I appreciate you tagging along on this journey with us. You are what makes this go. So thank you so much. Don't forget, we do have the full shop available. You can order now. You can order ground or whole bean on the shop. So you don't have to ask me to grind things for you. You can just order it already ground, so that's great. And we do have our featured coffee of the week. This week is our Cloud Force blend, so you can grab that. Let's see, looking for a new coffee to try. Recommendations. I love the Rainforest and also the Nocturnal. Have you tried the Glitter Mama? Have you tried the Cloud Forest? It's a light roast. I don't know if you particularly you've tried the light roast. Let's see, what else do we have? You like medium and dark roast. Have you tried the Tarantula Cat blend yet? It's like a medium dark. It's really nice. It's very popular. I would recommend that. I saw another question while you answer that. Larsonian Plant Bar. Good question. So our most popular coffees are either the Snake Discovery coffee, which is a medium roast, or our Rainforest blend, which is a medium roast. Our Snake Discovery coffee is a single origin Colombian, and it's by far our most popular coffee. And then the Rainforest blend is a Brazil, Colombian, Honduran, medium roast as well, and it's also super popular. So those are by far our two most popular coffees. Hope that helped. So back to Glitter Mama, the question about Snake Discovery or Bob Bledsoe. So those are all. So the Tarantula Cat is a little darker than those. If you recall, I think you were part of my roasting demonstration one time. So when you have coffee and you're roasting it, there's a point called first crack. And that's kind of the point where the coffee is done and you're only determining roast degree at that point. So usually our medium roast coffees are 3 minutes post first crack. and our dark roast coffees are 4 minutes post first crack. That Tarantula Cat blend is about 3 minutes and 30 seconds post first crack. So it's about halfway between a medium and a dark. It is actually the same blend as our Rainforest blend, just roasted darker. So if you like the Rainforest blend, you might like something a little darker. The Tarantula Cat is a really good option. The Bob Bledsoe one is interesting because it's got a Papua New Guinea in it, so it's very earthy. That Papua New Guinea takes heat really well, and so it doesn't really give off a lot of nuance until it gets dark. And so it's at a medium roast, it does tend to be a little earthier than, say, the Snake Discovery one. The Papua New Guinea is a really good coffee. I'm very happy with it. We keep it. I try my best to keep it in stock all the time. So I hope that helped answer your question. That would be the one that I would recommend. I'm looking over here because I've got a bunch of different coffees over here, so that's what I'm looking at. You said you've tried the Nocturnal. You said you tried the Rainforest. Said you've tried the Cloud Forest. Yeah, that would be the one that I would go with. Would be the Tarantula Cat one. All right. Any other questions for me? Keep in mind as you come up with all those. Different questions. Are all those in the shop? Yes, they are. Yeah, all those should be in the shop. Let me double check. I see. Oh, maybe not. Oh, yep, my Tarantula Cat's at the top. Yeah. So all those should be in the shop. So keep in mind, for those that join late, we will be this weekend at the Charleston Repticon. If you want to come and hang out and say, hey, that's the only local show that we do for Cold-Blooded Caffeine. And then if you can't make that or you're not local, then we will be at NARBC Tinley Park, October 11th and 12th. That's the big one. That's 25th anniversary of NARBC Tinley Park. So if you've never been to Tinley Park, that's about the best one I could think of to ever go to. So check that out, October 11th and 12th. The Snakes and Stogies blend, Glitter Mama is for the Herpeticulture Network. So no, that's not. So maybe I don't have Bob Bledsoe's in there yet. I'll need to add that in. Bob Bledsoe's is Green Room Pythons blend or something like that. Green Room blend or something like that. Yes, go to Tinley, stop by and sit and see our booth. We are right in the lobby. So if you've ever been to Tinley, you check in right as you walk in. We are literally 6 foot away from the check-in table. So you won't be able to miss us. We'll be slinging coffee from 10 a.m. on Friday until 4 p.m. on Saturday, and it doesn't stop. So it's a fun weekend. Highly enjoy it every time. We drive to Chicago twice a year, and I wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun, and I continue to do it over and over and over again. So, good. All right. Thank you, Glitter Mama, for trying my recommendations. I hope you enjoy it. Please let me know what you think. And, yeah, I think that is all that I have. So let me just double-check my notes here to make sure I didn't miss anything. We're going to be doing these live streams every Tuesday and Thursday. So I'll try and come up with new topics to talk about every Tuesday and Thursday. You can get Bob's on our website for now until I get it uploaded to Palm Street. I'll try and do that before the next live stream. So if you want to wait on that, you're welcome to do that and order it here. Or you can go to our website, coldbloodedcaffeine.com, and get it there. So the Cynthia, the question, I just bought the Rainforest and have had the Cloud. What would you recommend for a light or medium roast? So there's a lot to choose from in that. I do enjoy, shout out to Catalia. Catalia has her own coffee with us. It's a light roast. It is a Mexico and a Guatemala, and it's very, very nice. I enjoy that coffee a lot. So if you want to try and support, and proceeds from that also go back to Catalia, so that's nice. We can support other people in the reptile industry. So you can support her with her coffee. And then we also we talked about a few of them there. The Green Room Python blend, which is on our website, not on Palm Street yet, but we'll get working on that. The Snake Discovery blend is a medium roast Colombian single origin. We have the Snakes and Stogies blend, which is a medium roast. It is a Mexico and a Papua New Guinea, maybe? I can't remember off the top of my head. There's a lot of different ones, medium roasts in there. If you like a light roast, I think, or you can try our single origin stuff. So you can try the Honduran Light, is a single origin Honduran. That's really, really great. And then, what else? So much stuff. Yeah. If you see something you like, send me a message. I can give you some recommendations based off of that. I see you tried the Snake Discovery blend. I think that's a solid choice. It's a great option for like an all around coffee. I love that blend. It is by far our most popular one. So, I saw Larsonian Plant Bar grabbed a 4-ounce coffee sample pack. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. So thank you all for supporting us. Again, your purchases go back. 5% of those will go back to wildlife conservation initiatives. So thank you so much for the support. We wouldn't be here without you. We couldn't do what we do without the support of this community. So if there's ever anything we can do for you, please let us know. We're happy to support. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. All right. Any other questions before we close here? I'm here for another 10 minutes if you need anything. I'll be happy to sit and chat. I think that's a really good idea, Larsonian Plant Bar. I think that makes a lot of sense. That's why that sample pack is out there for you guys, to give it a try, see what you like, and kind of make decisions from there. It'll at least give you an idea of who we are, the quality of coffee we have, and so, yeah, hope you enjoy that, and hope to see you all again on a live stream soon. Like I mentioned, we're doing these every Tuesdays and Thursday, as long as I can keep coming up with ideas to talk about. So, all right. Thank you so much. I think we'll end it here. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you again on Tuesday. I got to figure out how to sign off of this thing now. Let's see. Always the fun ending, the awkward ending. All right, I figured it out. All right. Appreciate it, guys. Hope you'll have a good weekend. We'll see you again on Tuesday.